involving very young children. There's women, there's men there, there's people with chronic illnesses, and they are not receiving any support from any of the state organisms or entities. It's purely civil society that has been responsible for providing humanitarian aid at this particular site. And it's an ongoing, basically it seems to be an ongoing issue, and despite all attempts to various levels of government, and I would go from local government, provincial government, national government, there has been very little intervention in this beyond a Home Affairs intervention to verify the status of the refugees. Right? The municipality has not provided resources to support this community. Neither has there been the activation of what's known as the disaster management plan. Now, it has to be clear that refugees enjoy a specific status. These are documented refugees, they are registered with the UNHCR, they are registered with Home Affairs, they are entitled to all the protections that South African citizens enjoy besides the right to vote. Now,
we came in from our country, it's not their government. I'm saying about local people who are saying that maybe our government, they are the one who printed those documents to bring us to South Africa. And I don't know for what reason, but something which I want to clarify is that we never choose to be in South Africa. As like I did one of the interview with SABC by asking me why you never ran to your first safe country. And I tell them clearly that in 2015, we had it on news that 15 well-trained South African military were killed in my country, in my province, whereby we are next to Rwanda. And then I asked journalists, is that safe country which you tell me that I must run to, where South African 15 or 13 well-trained military who were killed, you want to tell me that, my friend, safe country? And that's the question which we are having in South Africa. We are not here migrant. We are not, and I say we are not here migrant. Our community, our people, they are refugees. We came because our government, they were not able to sustain giving us security. They never do that. That's why we ran. And then if they shoot, like the entire house go down, and all your family, you see how they die, and then they want you to choose to go to next country and say you must be a refugee there. And I replied to say, actually, I think South Africa, you never go through the war. We heard about apartheid, that is other story, according to my understanding. We saw people die, we saw our women raped in front of us. We saw a young man who had to sleep with his mother in front of everyone in the family. This is kind of trauma which we came with in South Africa, asking for protection, and then maybe plan which they were having, if not to go and support those who are looting our country. But when we come here, they want to turn back, so that's how women must be raped, especially those who are here. Our children who were born here, who don't know our border, they must go back to Congo because it's their country. So I don't think that I'm going to take much of your time. We have so many questions, which we're trying to say South African government, they're supposed to be responsible enough. Because on apartheid time, you South African, you are out of this country. For example, when there were funeral of Nelson Mandela, father of this country, they asked many leaders of this country, others they left even their shoes. Even the former President Nelson Mandela, their shoes there in the Dar es Salaam office in the parliament there, they want you guys to go and have it. And you don't think that you are only country in the world, because whenever a problem is, I think we can go anywhere, or you can go anywhere, because we know that there are even good problems in Zulu which say, Unyawaona Pumulo. Depends on what you are crying for and what you are seeking. So we are here, we don't know where we are, because we have women, we have men who are enjoying your cold weather in the street of Che Guevara after 8 weeks suffering. No one who seems to care. We've been engaged with South African government, they look like they don't care, they don't want to care about us. Meanwhile, we are here legally, We have documents which are only not for South Africa. We are well known, well recognized even with United Nations, which according to 1951 Convention, they recognize that we are here just for protection. And as like you South African, you know how to put things. You are maybe boasting yourself that you're giving us a favor. Meanwhile, our visas in South Africa have been paid with international organizations like UNHCR. So we don't take favor to be in South Africa, and we never ask God to be in this kind of situation whereby people are suffering enough, but there's no one who cares. We've been engaged even with the United Nations to the point whereby you want to politicize us in your land, meanwhile we came like refugees. I'm saying this from experience because the second week we in Che Guevara, there is an organization which came, I think they're dealing with churches, and they want to give us temporary shelter, and your politics come in. One guy who served in the councillor office at the Che Guevara area, he just come to tell us that guys are going nowhere because this is a government problem and they must sort out their problem. So this is what we are saying, we are innocent. We ran here, we are refugees. We need help from anyone. We never designed to be on the road. Our women, 3-month babies sleeping in the cold, which you know. But I don't want to finish by not taking those ones really who are feeling to help us, and I don't want to name them so that we can point them and say, you are the one who making them not to leave this area. They tell us about social integration, and we are asking responsible government like South Africa, do you know what the meaning of social integration? Because if they say really that we need to integrate in the community, we say yes from the Minister of Defense of this country. And then we even push. That day we were over 600 people. We push people to go back. But after 30 years, the problem is just repeat. You've been here in newsrooms, you saw what we spoke about Isipingo, you saw what we spoke about Kwamakuta, right around Durban. We have even people who are floating from Eastern Cape to run because they know Che Guevara, because we are under police care there.
This group and the children of migrants all around the province and the country are criminal acts. The rights of children are not conditional. They're not conditional on nationality. They're not conditional on crimes that may or may not have been committed by their families or their parents. They have the right to life. They have the right to protection, to family, to a name, to health and education. I haven't got time to tell you how many children have been forced out of school or removed for their own safety since these events started. But I think this constitutes a form of collective punishment of anybody who is seen to be a foreigner in this province. Thank you.
African Solidarity Network. I'm glad that at least now I have a chance to speak to the media. Because from where I stand, I think the media has played a big role in fomenting xenophobia in this country. Because what you get right now is a one-sided story about how bad migrants are. There hasn't been any attempt so far to give the other side. I'm glad that you came so that you could hear my side. You cannot talk of plight of migrant workers in this country without talking about the history of migrant labor in this country. Migrant labor has shaped this country. And if you are going to look back to history before 1910, before the Union of South Africa came into being, the economy was being shaped to create a classless, ruthless class of workers. And if you are going to look to today, it's exactly the same thing that is happening. People do not, I think you might be wondering why there are so many Malawians here. Just didn't happen yesterday or 2 years, 5 years ago. You need to look at the history of this country, where you find that Southern Africa If you go throughout Southern Africa right now, you go to Malawi, Zimbabwe, you find there are compounds where people will be housed, waiting to be transported to work in mines in South Africa and Johannesburg. And so this is how this is started. So for Malawians, it's a way of life to come and work in South Africa. So because even now, a vice president, former Shakti, has got Malawian ancestry. The first COSATU president was of Malawian origin. And what you see right now is a manifestation of the colonial legacy. And I want us to look at the frontline states. What was their role? The Southern African Coordinating Conference, which then became the SADC. Those bodies were meant to organize to fight apartheid. The reason why they were fighting apartheid was not that because it was well survived, because South Africa after 1994 was supposed to play a role of a catalyst to develop the rest of Southern Africa. Because Malawi and Mozambique were merely dormitory countries housing labor to work in South African mines. So that legacy is continued up to this day. That is the reason why you find so many Southern Africans in this country. And the reason why Zimbabwe was sort of developed because the whites in Rhodesia refused to join the Union of South Africa. So they began to develop Zimbabwe, then called Rhodesia. So in that context, workers were never given rights. They were merely headed like cattle into compounds, waiting to come and work in mines and farms in South Africa and mines and farms in Zimbabwe. So that's a story that I think the media should begin to tell. That what is happening right now is a...
And I'm also with Siyafana Sonke. I'm here to speak on the management and delivery of humanitarian aid towards the Che Guevara site. Since the time the refugees brought Home Affairs, Raphael reached out to many of his comrades, including some of my comrades here, who have all were part of advocacy and service organizations that have since joined and endorsed Siyafana Sonke. Since they have contacted us, we have scrambled to provide even basic aid from food and blankets. We attempted to reach out to all of our broader networks to see who could come in and step in and provide aid. Although many refused initially, those that stepped in asked to remain anonymous because they were afraid of being associated and shown they were supporting Che Guevara folks in the beginning for fear of retaliation. We tried even providing cooking stoves and other materials so that they could even cook for themselves, but they were harassed by cops and told that they could not even cook for themselves on the street. So since then, these aid organizations, these community-based organizations have stepped in providing breakfast, lunch, and dinner, cooked food for these individuals so that they can have food in their bellies and water and basic blankets and basic toiletries and amenities. We have tried and attempted to find shelter in so many different ways, working with government, working with faith-based organizations, and many other partners, and have all been refused, closed doors, or have had no responses, and provided different locations and different solutions, and again, have all had closed doors or closed pathways in order to do this.